the Browns signed inside linebacker Devin Bush. Yesterday, he came into Cleveland for a visit, so it felt pretty likely that the Browns were going to sign him. There was a good chance. I know the Browns have been in contact. They were wanting to get another inside linebacker in here, and it makes sense because they lost Anthony Walker and they lost Sione Takitaki in free agency. And I don't want to say they lost them. I think more than anything, they opted just not to bring them back. I didn't think the Browns were going to try to bring back Anthony Walker, and they didn't. And I thought it was kind of a coin flip for Sione Takitaki as well. But it makes sense here that the Browns would, and I've seen people saying, just off the top here, why didn't they sign Devin White? Devin White went and signed with the Eagles for, I think it was 1 year, $7.5 million. And a lot of the arguments have been, well, Andrew Berry could have paid $7.5 million to get him in Cleveland. I don't think Andrew Berry wants to pay $7.5 million for a linebacker. If you followed anything the Browns have done, if you have followed anything that I have talked about, if you watched my State of the Browns for the linebackers position, the Browns don't spend a whole heck of a lot of money at the linebacker position. And honestly, $4 million a year for Jordan Hicks was on the higher end of what Andrew Berry historically ever spends at this position. So could the Browns have spent $7.5 million on Devin White? No, I don't believe so, because they're not willing to do that. They don't want to do that, and it's just not where they put their money. So if you understand the Browns' historical spending, their trends, what they like to do, where they put their money, you would have known from the beginning that Devin White's not an option for the Browns. Devin Bush, on the other hand, was an option, and he comes in on a 1-year deal. And I'm trying to find how much the 1 year is valued at, but I can't imagine it's any more than like maybe $3.5 million for the 1 year, and it might even be lower than that. By the time the details come out, you'll know, and we'll talk about it later. But I can't imagine it's a very big contract whatsoever. Again, not a whole lot of spending at this position, but Devin Bush, former first-round pick, 10th pick, top 10 pick in the 2019 NFL draft out of Michigan, drafted by the Steelers. And the thing with Devin Bush is he had a very, very good rookie season. He had 109 total tackles, 9 tackle for loss. He had a sack, scored a touchdown, had 4 fumble recoveries, forced a fumble, and had 2 interceptions. Played all 16 games that season in 2019. So the dude came into the NFL's rookie season and looked every bit worth that top 10 pick, because he was going... If you just looked at that season, it was like, man, this guy is going... If this is what he's doing as a rookie, just imagine what he's going to do over his entire career. Then 2020 rolls around, his second season in the league. He's the starting linebacker, plays every snap. In, what to say here, the first 5 games, 26 tackles, 16 solo. He had a sack. And then in the second quarter, week 6, he tears his ACL. And that was actually against the Cleveland Browns. I didn't remember that part of it, but he tore his ACL in week 6 of 2020 against the Browns, put on injured reserve, and his career honestly just hasn't been the same since then. He played 14 games the following year in Pittsburgh, 70 sacks, just 2 tackle for loss. He did have 2 sacks, a forced fumble, but that was really about it. And then his last season in Pittsburgh, he had 81 tackles. 2 tackle for loss again. And then they did not extend him, bring him back. So he signs last year with Seattle. Played 13 games, 37 tackles, 5 tackle for loss. Overall, not impressive numbers, but not horrible numbers. They're obviously not top 10 draft pick expectations, but to get him in here on this Cleveland Browns defense with Jim Schwartz, I think Devin Bush could have a semi-resurrected type of career season. I think you could see him really, really play pretty well in this defense for the Browns. And what I like about the Devin Bush signing is he's not your starting linebacker. He's not the guy you're bringing in here and you're saying, okay, we're depending on you to hold down the fort in the middle. We've got Jordan Hicks for that. We've got JOK at the outside linebacker position. So that's kind of what I like about this. I think it's a good low risk, high reward type of signing. And it's probably a situation where, honestly, if he doesn't pan out over the summer, if the Browns don't think he's fitting into the defense, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do what they brought him in to do. Hell, he might not even be on the team come the season. So I think that these kind of moves, these low risk moves that could potentially pay high dividends on these one-year deals, Andrew Berry's making some very calculated, well-calculated, thought-out decisions for this Browns roster. So I saw somebody on Twitter was complaining about Devin Bush coming to the Browns because of missed tackles. And again, not a Steelers fan, obviously. Don't watch a lot of Schittsburg. Not a Seahawks fan, so I didn't watch a lot of the Seahawks last year. So I'm not real up on this whole missed tackle thing with Devin Bush, but I'm just looking at his stats on Pro Football Reference. Missed tackles last year, 2. Missed tackles his last year in Pittsburgh in 17 games, 1. Missed tackles the year before, 5. His rookie season, which I said was his best season, he had, over 100 tackles and all that stuff. He had 14 missed tackles as a rookie. And then he's never had more than 5 since then. And the last 2 seasons, like I said, just 1 and 2 missed tackles. So I guess I don't really understand where the missed tackle narrative comes from. If you guys have more information, more intel on Devin Bush specifically, some of the pros and cons of him, this missed tackle situation, put it in the comments. Let me know. We'll talk about, we'll hash it out and figure out what that whole deal is. But just looking at the stats, I don't really understand where that whole notion is coming from that this guy has some huge missed tackle rate, because he doesn't. So we'll talk about that. We'll continue to break these things down. The last little fun fact here to mention about Devin Bush, his dad, Devin Bush Sr. So Devin Bush is Devin Bush Jr. Devin Bush Sr. played safety for the Browns from 2001 to 2002. So NFL player as a father, and he actually played in Cleveland. So now we get his son here for 1 year to see what he can do. And I like the story. I think it's cool. I expect, this is just my personal opinion, my expectation for Devin Bush in 24, but I expect a guy like this, and again, has not been the same since the torn ACL. The injury really, I don't know how, these injuries affect these players mentally, a lot of times more than physically. Your body has no problem recovering from an injury as long as it's, the rehab is done well and your body's young and healthy and all that stuff. Your body is created to heal itself. That's just that's what it was created to do. The body is the most incredible machine ever created, and it will heal itself. But the mind is a different animal. And a lot of times these guys, they are limited physically because of their mental limitations after an injury. And I know this very well from a personal friend of mine who played pro sports, and how injuries affected him mentally and derailed his career. So I think that Devin Bush needs a resurgence. He needs to get into this type of situation. That's why I expect 24 to be pretty good for him, actually. I think it's going to be a good rejuvenation for him. I think being in Cleveland, where his dad played at one point, with one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league, with Jim Schwartz, with his defensive line, with other great leaders like Miles and Denzel and Delpit and Juan Thornhill and just all these guys that we're surrounding him with, I think this could end up being pretty good for Bush and for the Browns. So we'll see how that goes.